New York Giants fans. Yeah, I know. Like for a lot of you, you just wish a lot of this would go away. You wish that this season would just be over, that you no longer had to see any other like things happen from this season. But it just sticks with me in my head quotes from the off-season hard knocks with the New York Giants, where um Mara talks about just being sick if he had to look up and Saquon Barkley was over with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's funny, and I know it's not funny. Some of y'all are really, you really take this seriously, and this is maybe like the worst outcome you could possibly see. And then others of you are happy for Saquon Barkley. If nonetheless, I've heard some people say, "Oh, I'm so happy for Saquon Barkley, the person," but disgusted that it's that team that he's doing it with. I just think it's interesting, and I want to talk about it. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I'm Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on SI. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information from. Make sure you go over there, check it out. Check out all of my recordings from the Senior Bowl. I've been locked in at the Senior Bowl over the last few days, and I will be locked in for the duration of the Senior Bowl, giving you daily updates on players who are having a good week of practices. For most of you, if you know that the practices a lot of times are a lot more important than the game, because the game people don't want to take the risk of getting injured in because it's live. And a lot of the stuff that happens in the practices are not live. So I've been watching those games. My plan was to be there, but like I told you all a couple days ago, been dealing with the flu, extreme flu conditions, and I'm now just starting to kind of sort of feel normal again. So happy about that. Hope all of you are happy and healthy as well, and not just sick to your stomach. Or if you are sick to your stomach, be sick to your stomach simply just because you're watching Saquon Barkley go to the Super Bowl. And that's what I want to start with. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you can see everything that we do over here at the New York Giants on that side. Make sure that you are following along on all of your DSPs. Make sure you're reading the articles on the New York Giants on that side. They all help support your boy. Remember, this is free to you, and the only way you've got to pay is to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I want to start with congratulations. That's just simple. Congratulations to Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia 76ers, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I mean it in that order. Congratulations to Saquon Barkley, former New York Giant, great, should have been New York Giant, all-time Ring of Honor great, could have been possible Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer for the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley. But that wasn't in the cards. I get this a lot when I talk about this subject. I get people telling me, well, Saquon wouldn't have done that here. And I always say, well, how do you know? You never tried. Since Saquon has been the running back for the New York Giants, the New York Giants have not tried to make him the focal point of the offense. What do I mean? Yes, he has been the focal point of the offense, but the Giants, outside of the first season, never really tried to make him the focal point of the offense. They never built the team around Saquon Barkley. They built the team around the quarterback and they use Saquon Barkley as an ultimate weapon for the quarterback. But that was flawed thinking. Stay with me. See, all of the moves that were made subsequent to adding Saquon Barkley were made not to help Saquon Barkley, but to help a quarterback. But what if all of the moves that were made to help Saquon Barkley? Do you go out and sign a $70 million wide receiver who's injury prone and injured at the time to come in here? He's not helping Saquon Barkley. Do you trade for a tight end who's a pass receiving tight end to come in and help Saquon Barkley? No. Do you draft a number 1 overall wide receiver if your idea is to have Saquon Barkley be the focal point, right? We can say a lot of things about the Eagles, and people will say, well, the Eagles had the best roster in the game, and that's why they're this, and that's why they're that, and blah, blah, blah. But how did they get there? Well, they got there by building the best offensive line, or one of the best offensive lines in the game. How did they do that? They didn't just go out and draft all of the offensive linemen. Why is it that it took Saquon Barkley leaving for the front office to invest in the offensive line? I'm sure Saquon Barkley wouldn't have been mad if you added 3 brand new offensive linemen to the offensive line to help bolster the running game, but it wasn't done to bolster the running game. None of anything that was done was done to bolster and or support making Saquon Barkley the lead guy. Because when people tell me, oh, he wouldn't have done this with the Giants, I simply just go, why? Oh, why couldn't he? We watched Derrick Henry go for 2,000 yards with a Titans offense that had no real legitimate outside threats. Like, no guys that made you go, oh my gosh, they're gonna, like, that's formidable. They did it with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, not a stud top 10 quarterback in the league. They did it with a mediocre middle of the road quarterback. They did it with decent outside weapons, but nothing to call home to mom about it, right? But they had a monster at running back. They had a good offensive line. And they had a staunch defense. You know what helps a running back? A really good defense. You know why? Because that defense gets the ball back to the running back. Amazing how that works, right? Defense gets the ball back to the running back. The running back can then continue to chew up time and yards. Now the defense doesn't have to be on the field as much. When they do get on the field, 3 and out, offense is back on the field, chewing up time. Now the defense is fresher in the second quarter, fresher in the second half, fresher in the fourth quarter to be able to stop teams when they need to get stops. It's funny, right, that in the time that Saquon Barkley was the starting running back for the New York Giants, they didn't move heaven and earth to find a legitimate dual threat tight end, a guy who could block and catch passes, because that would help a running back. Instead, they had to keep on like hodgepodge and stuff, bringing offensive linemen in to block, then going out and getting run blocking tight ends that can't pass block at all this year after Saquon Barkley's gone. So I struggle sometimes to wonder what the thought process was. Like, why would you not build a team around the running back? Oh, because somebody somewhere told someone that the only way to win in this league is to be a pass-first offense, is to be a pass-centric offense. And yet, Philadelphia is now going to their second Super Bowl in 3 years. Their second Super Bowl in 3 years, and the middle year was a year that they didn't get there because the defense collapsed on them in the second half and the offense got beat up. But that year was still a playoff caliber year. They did it with a running style of offense, not with a pass it all over the place type of offense. They invested in the running back in all 3 of those years. Remember, they had Sanders, they had Miles Sanders, and all of those backs who used to all run really well against the Giants. And then they were like, yeah, we're not going to pay you guys. We're going to upgrade and bring in other guys. So then they went out and they got what is his name? They got the running back from Detroit who was let go in Detroit because of Detroit Detroit had a bunch of running backs, right? Oh, DeAndre Swift. There we go. They brought DeAndre Swift in. DeAndre Swift had a great year. But then they got him out of there. They were like, no. We're aiming higher. And if they did not get Saquon Barkley, I'm convinced they would have probably got Josh Jacobs. If they didn't get Saquon Barkley, they would have probably tried to make a run for Derrick Henry. They were going to get an elite level back. Why? Because they knew where their bread was buttered, and they understood that you could get to the championship by investing in the back. So they did. They invested in Saquon Barkley. They made him a well-paid running back, right? You want to know what his contract really is? This is he signed a 3-year, $37 million deal. $37 million. So they procured the services of Saquon Barkley for 3 years, what the Giants paid Daniel Jones for 1. For the amount of money that the Giants paid for 1 season of Daniel Jones, the Philadelphia Eagles are getting 3 years of service for Saquon Barkley. They gave him $26 million guaranteed at signing. I think that was money well spent. His average salary is $12,583,333. And why do I say that? Because there was a quote during the Hard Knocks by Joe Schoen where he said, I don't want to see our $40 million quarterback handing off to a $12 million running back. That was really interesting to me when he said that. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because Jalen Hurts, his contract that he signed, remember, because he was a second round pick, I believe. So he didn't get like the extra 5th-year option. So he's in his new deal now. You want to know what his average salary is? His average salary right now in $51 million a year. So Philadelphia was willing to let their $51 million quarterback hand the ball off to their $12 million running back. And now they're going to the Super Bowl. If that is not the biggest indictment on Joe Schoen that I can think of, then I don't know what indictments are. He said to him, it didn't make logical sense to allow the $40 million. Now, I'm inclined to not believe him when he says it, right? I think he was just saying that because he had to say something to justify not bringing Saquon Barkley back. But the reality is, if you said it, now you got to live with it. So he said, I don't want my $40 million quarterback handing the ball off to a $12 million running back. And so he lowballed. He lowballed Saquon. He made it seem as if he was untradeable. Well, nobody's going to trade for him. He made it seem as if it wasn't worth, right? He made it seem like it wasn't worth trying to get something for Saquon or bringing him back, because I could duplicate what I would get from Saquon in these other people. And a lot of people have gone out of their way to show Saquon Barkley stats from last year on a team with a bunch of offensive linemen who were hurt and a quarterback who was hurt and two other quarterbacks out there. They went out of their way to do that and then compare it to this year's stats with Tyrone Tracy as a way of saying, well, maybe Joe Schoen wasn't wrong. Except Saquon Barkley never had the services of 3 new offensive linemen, of a wide receiver on the outside that people had to respect on top of the other wide receiver that they had, of a game plan that was to feed passes into these wide receivers, which then opened up the box and allowed the running back to not face stacked boxes. Like Saquon Barkley didn't get any of those luxuries. So it's not even an apples to apples comparison. It's not even an apples to apples comparison. If you put Tyrone Tracy behind the offensive line and in the offense from 2023, that was hodgepodge and all over the place. Does he put up those numbers that he put up this year? Probably not. Most likely not. Saquon Barkley needed a team to believe in him enough to give him the keys and then put everything in the engine to make it as beefy as possible. Put all the armor on the car so that it could be indestructible. To put the type of tires on the car necessary to be able to go in all terrain. But they handed the keys to Saquon Barkley and said, Saquon Barkley, you take us to the promised land. And now you can make the argument that Saquon Barkley is having the greatest season for a running back ever. I'm never going to tell you that he's the greatest running back ever, because that to me is subjective, and there have been some phenomenal running backs. But how can you argue greatest season for a running back ever? Because the season doesn't just refer to regular season, but refers to playoffs. And if he does the impossible or the possible now, because they're in the Super Bowl and he wins it, it will be the greatest season ever for a running back. And that will be 1 year, less than a year, after Joe Schoen told the world that this man was not worth re-signing. Not that he wasn't worth re-signing at a certain amount of, that he wasn't worth re-signing at all. And the only thing that he had trying to work for him was a lame, half-ass, backdoor, hey, are you going to give us a chance to match if you go out and find something? Everybody knows they're not trying to match them numbers. They wanted him gone. They were mad that he went to Philly. But then they laughed about it. He laughed about it when the owner said, hey, man, I'm going to be sick if he's over there in Philly. And then he just took a deep sigh and walked out. And the fans are the same fans that will sit and tell you that owner didn't was not willing to protect Saquon at all costs, but was willing to protect Daniel Jones at all costs. And if it's so, then hey, guess what? It makes the season even more laughable, because when Saquon and Daniel Jones were both up for contract extensions, they were both going to be free agents. They had a chance to sign Saquon then. Saquon probably wanted more money. They didn't want to pay him more money. And so here we are. And don't give me they offered him a contract. If you offered him a contract and he turned it down, and guess what? The contract wasn't good enough. He deserved everything he asked for. And guess what? Philadelphia, because they have a better team, can get him for less money. But you, as the New York Giants fans and New York Giants team, can't afford to lowball your homegrown talent, because he might be willing to go to your enemy just to prove you wrong. And now everything is coming up Saquon now. Everything is coming up Barkley. You roll it 10 times, it's 10 times Barkley. And that's something that the New York Giants fear, whether you're a content creator, media member, fan, teammate, coach, GM, owner, anybody associated. It is something that you're going to have to wear, that we are going to have to wear. So I can't stop talking about it. Right? I will be at the Super Bowl. I will be on Radio Row all week. I'll be bringing you this show. We will have a Saquon Barkley section every single show. You know why? Because he's about to do something that you can only draw up in a movie or in a book. How often do you see where the person who was publicly casted aside and said that they didn't know if he was worth $6 million join the team, essentially break the rushing record, but decide to not break it in order to keep himself healthy? I said it was a mistake, because you never know what history has in store for you. And then over the 3 games, the wild card, the divisional round, and the championship week, have 3 of the most impressive games in the postseason ever to get his team to the Super Bowl, all while his former team that's in the same division has to watch. This is a story. There is no, hey, it's over now, it's time to move by it. It's not. This is going to be a thing until it's no longer a thing. And that no longer a thing is a Super Bowl or a Super Bowl loss. And then we can move along. Then we can. So don't expect to not hear about Saquon Barkley over the next week or 2 weeks. You're going to hear about him. I wish I could get him as a guest. I wish I could talk to him. Not to rub it into anyone's faces, but this is a phenomenal story. I told you guys, I'm a journalist first. This is a phenomenal story, and I want to hear the story and tell the story and be able to listen to the story, all of that stuff. It's amazing. Yo, bravo to Saquon, and shame on Joe Schoen for how he handled it. Because it's not just that he didn't re-sign, right? It's not that he didn't re-sign him. That can almost be explained away, right? Hey, you're not a Super Bowl contending team right now. We need to allocate resources. Okay, cool, whatever. It's how you treated him on the way out, making it seem as if he wasn't worth re-signing. Joe Schoen could have easily just said, hey, listen, I understand it, man. I'd really love to have Saquon Barkley back. But the truth is that he is a 12 to $15 million a year running back, and we have needs that are going to be far beyond a 12 to $15 million running back. So either we're going to have to sign him back and then get bargain basement stuff to help bolster the offensive line and whatever else, or we can let him go and we can bring in some premium pieces other places and then hope that we can build up another running back to give us something similar. We'd love to have him back, but we just can't afford it. No, not a, well, I just don't even know if he'd come back for the amount of money we would value him at. He made it seem as if his value was low. And that was the lame part. That was the low hanging fruit. That was the punch in the gut. That was the hit to the jejunum. Whenever you try to devalue somebody in order to justify why you don't re-sign them, then when they go out and justify the value, you look like an idiot. And like I said before, too many times people are not just willing to admit that they were wrong. If we had more people admitting they were wrong, it would actually give us less to talk about. Because if Joe Schoen would just even down at the Senior Bowl, at the Shrine Bowl, if somebody just called him and go, hey Joe, looking at everything Saquon Barkley is doing, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it different? Hey, you know what, man? Saquon Barkley is a tremendous talent. We should have moved some things around to try to bring him back at all costs. That was probably a mistake on mine. Okay, you know what? People might kill you in the moment, but now you know what they can't do? You can't talk about it anymore because you already admitted that you're wrong. So now they're beating the dead horse. This ain't no dead horse because the horse isn't dead. The horse is galloping all the way to the Super Bowl. These types of stories don't write themselves, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm happy I can be here to give the narratives that come along with it. I think it's phenomenal. I can't wait to watch him. I will likely be rooting for him to win the Super Bowl. Because why not? Right? Why not? What do we lose from that? Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that I have today. New York Giants on SI. Make sure that you go there for all of your New York Giants news and information. Got to hit it up. Got to see all the stuff I'm writing about the Shrine Bowl. Day 2 recap will be out in the morning. The daily recaps are normally out in the morning, so definitely make sure that you check those out. And then check out everything else that we're doing right into the Senior Bowl and then into Super Bowl week. I'll be around. I'll be writing. I'll be with you on this podcast. Until next time, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.